you very much, Mr. Stevens, and let us begin. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been asked to kick things off today by introducing each of our debaters and welcoming them to the stage. I will then put the motion in context, explain the significance of the motion here at this time in Hong Kong, and then explain the structures and the rules of the debate itself. So let us get to the personalities that have been brave enough to come out and present in front of you here today. I am first going to introduce the team that will be sitting to my left, starting with Mr. Cheng Chung Tai. Mr. Cheng, Dr. Cheng is an academic in sociology. He is a member of civic passion and full of passion, and very well-known figure among the localists and the pro-independence factions in Hong Kong. He is an aspiring politician and ran in last year's district council elections. Please welcome him to the stage. Thank you very much. Our next speaker today, originally we had scheduled Baggio Long of Young Inspiration, but he has unfortunately fallen ill, and our best wishes go to him in a speedy recovery. Manning up for today's presentation on short notice is Kenny Wong. However, he's eminently qualified as the spokesperson of Young Inspiration and in the opposite position, I would first like to introduce Regina Ip, who has had an absolutely extraordinary career. She first joined the Hong Kong government as an administrative officer. For those of you that don't know, if the government is military, the officer class are the AOs. They're something special. She rose through the ranks of the Hong Kong administration, becoming the Director of Immigration, and then later Secretary for Security, smashing through glass ceilings along the way, becoming the first woman to hold either of those posts. She has an knack for transformation, and after a career as a bureaucrat and a short break in California, she returned to Hong Kong and reinvented herself as a politician and founded the Think Tank Institute. A strong showing in the legislative elections in 2008 and 2012 saw her elected as a member of the Legislative Council and now is also in the Executive Council. Please welcome Regina Ip. Today from the New People's Party, which Regina is the co-founder. Eunice Young, if you'd like to read a little bit about her bio on Harbour Times, you can find out a little bit more about her there. Her competitive journey started in video gaming as a teenager. That love of video gaming inspired her to enter computer programming at Canada's prestigious University of British Columbia. She later moved on to become a lawyer and got heavily involved in community work, where she caught the attention of the New People's Party. I'm not going to trumpet too many of her achievements because she can trumpet just fine on her own as a musician in the Galaxy Wind Ensemble, the brass band that she founded. So please welcome
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you first of all to Island School for inviting us, and thank you to Kenny for a very eloquent exposition. I'm particularly grateful to Kenny for reading my MA thesis and studying my statements, which he quoted highly accurately. And the original motion that Gareth sent to me does not include the S word, secession. I am very glad that Island School is calling a spade and a spade. This is the Hong Kong secession debate. Prior to this debate, I have studied this issue, and I would like to approach it both from the theoretical and practical angles. From a theoretical level, I found that having studied the works of authorities on this subject, for example, the work of Professor Buchanan of Duke University, I discovered actually there is no constitutional right to secession. Even though the United Nations, one of the General Assembly resolutions, did say that peoples have a right to self-determination. Despite this very grand and noble aim, this principle is fraught with ambiguity and difficulty in implementation, as well as moral justification. Because if you think harder about secession, what does that involve? Secession involves redefining territorial boundary. If every people, however you define it, wants to have real self-determination in terms of independence, our planet will run out of resources and usable space for that purpose. So number one, you have to define what you mean by people. Now, Kenny answered my question. He tried to define it in terms of culture and identity that Hong Kong has defined, has developed a Hong Konger identity divorced from China. That, I'm afraid, I cannot agree with that, because Hong Kong's success actually is based on the chemistry which has grown out of the fusion of the cultures, the traditional Chinese culture, as well as the Western values which have underpinned our system. It is hard to say that Hong Kong has a culture which is divorced from China. And ethnically, you cannot identify a Hong Kong race which is ethnically divorced from the rest of the Chinese people. For example, my daughter, who just returned from California, she had a DNA test at her university and found that she is defined as 99% Chinese, 1% African. Probably because we are all descended from African Eve, so it's hard to define what is a Hong Kong race, And what you ask for, as I listen to Kenny, you want complete, real self-determination in the sense of freedom from external interference, domination by great powers, presumably. What you might have in mind is one of the great powers being China, who seems to be extending its influence or even interference in Hong Kong. I understand these fears. But if Hong Kong became an independent state, how do we defend ourselves from external domination? Whether China, US, Japan, Philippines, we need an army. We need to pay for an army. Currently, we don't need to. We have always had a British garrison to defend us. Hong Kong was attacked during World War II. And about 10 years ago, a Taiwan politician, Liu Taiying, of the Nationalist Party, he did threaten once that the Nationalist Party of Taiwan could use missiles to attack Hong Kong. So, in reality, we need an army. We need to increase tax. And we need to become an independent state. We need the United Nations Permanent Council's approval. China is a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. Any request put forward by, quote, a Hong Kong race, quote, Hong Kong people, however you define it, put to the United Nations will be vetoed. Because there have been suggestions that Japan and US could use Hong Kong to attack China. So China would not allow Hong Kong to become a subversive base. So that is actually, in reality, not possible. Coming to the reality of Hong Kong's high degree of autonomy, we are actually much more autonomous than any province in mainland China, or I dare say in Canada, or any states in the US. We have international status. We have signed before 1997 and continue to do so, over 600 international agreements. We are a member of WTO ahead of China. We are a member of WHO. We are a member of APEC. We can participate in the Olympic Games. We have always done that. We have international status. We have our own currency, our own passports, our own reserve, our own fiscal base. We don't have to pay back to mainland China. So what more do you want? But having listened to Kenny, I understand his frustration. And having read all the statements, I understand there are two major sources of frustration. One is the lack of progress in extending universal suffrage to elect the Legislative Council and the Chief Executive. Where democratic development is concerned, we have made great strides. Hong Kong restarted functional constituency election to electoral in 1985, very late, at the very late stage of our colonial history. And we only started direct elections to electoral in 1991. Currently, a majority of electoral members are already directly elected. Electoral is now a center of gravity. It's the focus of attention of the political world. The political world has eclipsed the administration. We could have achieved election of chief executive by universal suffrage if we had approved the government's motion last June. The motion was vetoed on 18 June a year ago. Of course, you can say it doesn't go far enough. That's because we are an SAR. We are bound by the basic law, which already gives us a very high level of autonomy, unparalleled by any parts of the sovereign state. Although there still has to be a nominating committee, if we had universal suffrage, the nominating committee, no doubt largely, which the main Beijing exerts a large amount of influence. Eventually, we will have to nominate someone electable by universal suffrage. It means in stages, in due course, we could be electing someone like Aung San Suu Kyi or Tsai Ing-wen. Hong Kong would become more and more free, but we threw that away. But I think it should be the objective of the next administration to try going for universal suffrage. As for the basic law or the Sino-British Joint Declaration on the Future of Hong Kong, which was registered with the United Nations, neither document has any expiry date. The Sino-British Treaty has no expiry date, nor does the basic law. The only provision which talks about 50 years is Article 5, which says that the capitalist system as well as the existing way of life will be unchanged in 50 years, for 50 years. But actually, it stands on a statement by Deng Xiaoping, and he said, if there's no need to change in 50 years, there's no need to change. So there's no future problem. I rest my case. Thank you very much.